everyone. I think we'll go ahead and get started. Excellencies, esteemed panelists, colleagues, and guests. On behalf of the co-organizers of today's event, with special thanks to the Permanent Mission of Chile to the UN for serving as lead sponsor, alongside the permanent missions of Canada, Colombia, Ireland, and Mexico to the UN, and the International Institute for Environment and Development, IIED, UNFCCC, UN Women, CBD Women's Caucus, and Women's Environment and Development Organization, on behalf of the Gender and Environment Data Alliance, or JADA, and 15 co-sponsoring coalition members, welcome. That is a very long list of supporters and friends, but I hope that it demonstrates the energy in the room today, not only here at CSW, but also on behalf of Gender Environment Data as a key component of feminist climate justice. I'm Natalie Cleveland, Senior Policy and Advocacy Manager at Data2X. Data2X is a global gender data alliance that mobilizes action to make gender data key to efforts to achieve gender equality. And we are also a very proud core partner and steering committee member of JADA. This event originated as a collaboration among JADA members. And before we begin today's program, I hope that you'll indulge me in a bit of background on our partnership. So the Gender and Environment Data Alliance was first co-founded in 2021 by WeDo, IUCN, and 15 other founding members, including Data2X. And in the last year, JADA has grown to become an expanded alliance of 90 institutional members and 26 individuals who are a part of JADA's Data Advisory Group. Of these, 61 are based in the Global South, and 59 work at the local and/or national level. And I highlight this because this makeup reflects a very deliberate and intentional outreach effort made to address the gender environment data gap in a way that actually centers the experiences of those who are on the front lines and of climate change and biodiversity collapse. So together, we work to advance gender-just climate and environmental action by promoting the collection, analysis, and use of gender and environment data to support gender-responsive climate and development policy. As JADA members, we know that gender environment data and evidence, including traditional and indigenous knowledge and contributions from non-state actors, which we'll discuss today, is a critical accelerant of gender-responsive climate action. And to situate ourselves in this unique moment in global policy, we also know that gender environment data is key to achieving the 3 Rio Conventions, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and the Beijing Platform for Action, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. So we look forward to further discussing. And with that, I would like to turn towards our esteemed excellencies to begin our program today. I'd first like to introduce His Excellency Ambassador Fergal Mythen, Permanent Representative of Ireland to the UN, to welcome you all and speak to how the government of Ireland is prioritizing gender and environment data and how they're working across sectors to ensure that data informs decision-making. Ambassador, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalie, and it's great to be here, and it's great to see CSW finishing strong. There's energy everywhere, there's full rooms, it's fantastic, and I think some of you know ourselves in Botswana are co-chairing a process to revitalise CSW. What we're trying to do is harness the energy and the impact of these 2 weeks to make it a longer term, impactful, effective CSW. So, and I know we're looking for input from civil society in that process. It's a real honour to speak here at today's side event on a whole of society approach to gender and environment data. I want to thank that long list of organisations you mentioned: IIED, UNFCCC, UN Women, CBD Women's Caucus, and Women's Environment and Development Organisation, WeDo. And also, I have to say, it's just a great honour to be sharing a platform with the missions of Chile and Mexico, and also Canada and Colombia. You can't get 5 stronger countries when it comes to rights, knowledge, SDGs, and I love sharing a platform with those member states and those countries, and long may that partnership last. We recognise that climate change exacerbates the erosion of women's rights and gender equality, highlighting the urgent need to prioritise the collection of gender disaggregated climate data. Understanding the relationship between gender and climate change is really crucial, not only to gain deeper insights into its gendered impacts, but also to ensure our responses are evidence-based, effective and directed where they're needed most. And I think we do see a bit of an onslaught against facts, against knowledge, against research. Not just, in many parts of the world, there's an elevation of opinion over fact and data. And I think it's really important, because that is how we really address issues and address challenges in a meaningful way, in an impactful way. We know that women and girls are disproportionately impacted by climate change. They're at the front lines dealing with effects of poverty, environmental degradation and natural disasters. For example, there's an estimate, I think it's a pretty solid estimate, that women are 14 times more likely to die in a natural disaster than men. And studies indicate that it is because natural disasters exacerbate pre-existing patterns of discrimination, pre-existing patterns of inequality, that render women more vulnerable to the impacts of disasters. And I think we all know that the UN estimates that 80% of people displaced by climate change are women. That is why Ireland is very pleased to provide funding to the WEDO, Women's Environment and Development Organisation, which connects and coordinates women's rights advocates and gender experts from across the world. And I think we saw in the past the gender world and rights community and the climate change community were separate and dealing in silos. And I think it's really important to break down those silos, and that's why we're really pleased to support that work. We also provide funding for the gender team at the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change for its work in supporting countries to better integrate gender equality into climate action. For Ireland, as I said, reliable data is at the core of policy making and should be at the core. It helps us to underpin the case that we and other parties can make across the multilateral system on the critical importance of gender issues, and ensures that our actions are grounded in evidence. And I think this is all the more so in an increasingly restricted, challenged, under pressure fiscal landscape. The collection and analysis of data becomes more, not less relevant. So also we're a strong supporter of the UN Women Count programme. Through this programme, Women Count, UN Women supports countries to improve the production, accessibility and use of gender statistics. It enables supportive policy and institutional environments to prioritise gender data and effective monitoring of the SDGs. And for us, for Ireland, gender is central to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, both as a standalone goal, number 5, but also as a key element of several other programmes. We cannot have sustainable development without gender at its absolute core. It's not a nice to have, it's absolutely hardwired and integrated and critical to the success of the Sustainable Development Goals. And in that, the value and importance of disaggregated gender data is absolutely essential. It's not a nice to have. And again, that's why the funding for those kind of programmes is hardwired into Ireland's development policy, A Better World. We are, of course, facing a considerable degree of uncertainty in this space, and I'm sure this has been a topic of conversation for the last 2 weeks. We are seeing a genuine pushback against women's rights, against gender. We're seeing that. We've seen it before this year. This is not a new development, but it seems to be turbocharged, and it's really challenging the very real gains that have been made over many years. In addition, uncertainty around the availability of financing for essential data collection, such as demographic and health surveys, is deeply concerning. Such gaps prevent the identification of critical trends in fertility, mortality, health outcomes and health behaviours, both at country level and regionally. And without such data, we cannot analyse the issues and address the issues and attack them effectively. So just full support for this work, full support in a financial way, as small as that may be from a country the size of Ireland, but also in a political way, using our voice to drive it on. It's absolutely essential we have the data. Without that, we're blind and we're not effective. So thank you very much.